Ice Disposals. I'm your host, Coach Donnie Hess here, back with another AFL review. And as per usual, we have to introduce the episode's co-host, as again, unfortunately, Ross cannot join us this year, a little bit busy with life. So joining me from the YouTube channel, Riles Macca, Riley McCarthy, joining me from Canberra, Australia. Riley, how you doing, sir?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mates. It's a pleasure to be on here, mates. Yeah, I've been knowing each other for a while, but yeah, great to chat finally about the footy, and yeah, keen to get into it, mate.
And always fun to talk with another Swans fan. May not exactly be the greatest Swans season to discuss, but but definitely a blood's brother when it comes to supporting the footy. So let's jump right into it, sir. Round 13, again, another round where upsets are plentiful in it. So really quick, your thoughts on round 13 and all of the results from the 8 games that were played in round 13.
Yeah, bloody. Usually with like these uh, buy rounds and etc. They sometimes can be a little bit iffy and a little bit scrappy sort of games here or there. But I just thought this was an action-packed round, to be honest. A lot of upsets, as you did say, and a lot of close games. And usually around the midpoint of the year, we start to see teams play, yeah, obviously a bit more scrappy, but a bit more of a relentless brand and a few individual players really starting to hit their straps and with the colder conditions as well. So, yeah, teams are starting to find form, starting to, yeah, scratch the surface on a few teams like Port Adelaide, 10 wins in a row. They're looking like a true competitor. There's a few season defining results with a few losses and etc. But yeah, it was just all over, only the 7 games, I think it was. Or, no, I think it was. No, yeah,
It
eight
was
games.
eight.
Sorry,
Yeah.
yeah, it was eight. Yeah, just a cracking round. I mean, if you're going over each game, or the first one, I think we might talk about a little bit more of the Swans' loss. It was terrible, but yeah, I just thought the Saints' defense and pressure really won them that game, and the Swans are unable to combat it on Thursday night, and just terrible their ball movement as of late, the Swans. And then the Friday night, so these 2 games I did as a live watch along on my channel, which are always enjoyable to do. But yeah, Port Adelaide's ball movement is just so good at the moment. The doggies going inside 50, their forward half use is a bit iffy. Their defensive transition woes are back. I think some terrible defensive efforts by a few players. It's really Liam Jones or bust at the moment. A few injuries that the doggies have as well, with like Ed Richards and Joe Anderson doesn't help. And then, yeah, the next game, this is honestly such a great game from the Hawks against the Lions. Don't know what it is with the Lions at the moment with the MCG woes. It is really terrible. They're just a shell of themselves at the MCG. But the Hawks, a few of their young guns in there. It's a really exciting brand. You know, they play fast paced, forward hand pass sort of style. And the Lions weren't able to pretty much defend their ball movement. To be honest, I think the Hawks was smacked in stoppages. I'm pretty sure when I did look at the team stats, but they just got some really good classy midfielders in there. Like Jai Newcomb is one player that I'm loving this year. I don't think many people's talked about him. You know, he's always that, hard as nails inside midfielder, but he's turned now into a bit of a goal kicking midfielder. He can go forward, kick goals. His disposal was a little bit erratic at times, but yeah, he's just able to now break away from stoppage. And yeah, the oldest midfielder is 24 years old of Connor Nash, and he's still playing a pretty key part to their midfield. And James Sicily, key back, he really controlled the tempo back down there. And Brockman as well. They've got some really good players, but given the inexperience, they're going to have poor games. They're going to have good games like this. And this is the thing was with the Hawks as well. I felt they'd get a few upset wins this year, so I couldn't put them bottom 2 heading into the start of the year. But yeah, Hawks are just a brilliant win. I think it has to be said more about their win. And yeah, I don't know what it is with the Lions. I'm pretty sure they will unfortunately get the bounce back win the Gabba against us Friday night. But hopefully, the Swannies could get up for that one. And then yeah, Adelaide, West Coast. I mean, it was just, I think there's always going to be a MA 15 plus or R rating game with this one, to be honest. Taylor Walker, 10 goals. You had like Red Bazzo, the poor young key defender. You had Witherden. I forgot who else they had. I think it was another one of those small defenders on Taylor Walker throughout the duration of the game. I think it was Elliot Yo. Another one on him. And, he was just dominating. And yeah, the Crows are just a top 4 side at the home deck. They're a dangerous team there, but just away from home, that is their issue. But yeah, they were just dominant against the Eagles. 174 points high score this year. And then yeah, Freo, I was a little bit disappointed to see them go down. The Tigers thought they'd turn up, but they're never a really good team in the rain. I think the Dockers, and they sort of were slow at the blocks. The Tigers' pressure and their intent and their ferocity was really on show throughout the whole 4 quarters. bit of umpire controversy. Freo's comeback I thought was pretty gallant, but yeah, the Tigers thought they defended pretty well around the ground. And yeah, felt their ball movement and turnover game was pretty strong. And I'm liking the Tigers at the moment. I think they could be one of those few teams that could possibly be smoky chance for finals. Just a fresh start under the new coach of Andrew, the Qualter, I think it is. They're just they're just that fresh start sort of situation they're in. I think they're in, they have good synergy and they're good chemistry at the moment and sort of low expectations. So I feel like they could maybe take a few more wins over heading into the second half of the year. And then, yeah, North and the Giants. Didn't really watch too much of this game, but I caught the second half. Yeah, the Giants just multiple goals in a row. North Melbourne, I saw George Wardlaw with a few of his highlights. He's going to be a superstar, so clean in the cold face. He's a genuine gun. And then, yeah, the Giants, they're flipping around the magnets a little bit. I saw Himmelberg went to defense and Callum Brown, the Irishman, kicked a few goals, I'm pretty sure, in the first half. And Toby Green was pretty much the match winner from that second half onwards. And I'm liking the Giants this year. I think they're showing a competitive brand. And yeah, I reckon next year that could be a good chance for finals. And then Carlton and Essendon, I just can't tip the Blues at the moment. They're just mentally short at the moment. They can't win. They try to play a bit more attacking from what I saw the past few weeks, a lot more overlapping run and everything. It's always about that final kick inside 50. They still struggle with that. They lack a lot of pressure around the ground. I think it was like 30 tackles they laid. It was really, really poor. And when they do have momentum, when they have a bit of, they win contest and clearance for a few minutes, throughout a quarter, they just can't execute inside 50. That's their troubles. And I still think with the Dons, like they could be a really sneaky chance for top four given their fixture throughout the end of the year. They actually are matching up really good against good quality teams, and they're just mentally on the same page compared from last year. They take really good control of the game. I'm pretty sure they're one of the top teams in the comp for uncontested marks. They move the ball well, and yeah, their pressure around the ground is really solid too. But yeah, pretty good win for the Dons on Sunday night. And this one, yeah, I felt the funny thing is, right, last year I tipped the D's twice with both of these matchups last year, and the Pies won twice. I'm like, I'll tip Collingwood this year, and I bet you they lose. They go on to lose. But yeah, I felt the D's this year, they haven't been too great against the top teams in the comp. Like they've just been a little bit of the shell themselves with scoring, and they only kicked 8 goals. But I felt this game, they found the blueprint to knock off the Pies. Just really strong defense. They brought everyone behind the ball, and when they did those hand pass chains, players like Jake Lever try and move forward and jockey and everything, and they just did really well to defend the Pies ball movement. Pretty much what won them the game. I mean, 8 goals, 18 to 9 goals. They pretty much should have won by a lot more, to be honest, when watching the game, and probably was around a 3-goal margin, but almost did choke at the end. But yeah, some superstar performances in there. Jack Fine, who was always a criminally underrated player, I feel. Big as well without Clay and Oliver. Fritsch down there was really important. And yeah, I just think the Melbourne's defense is one of the best defenses in the comp. They just defend really well when they're up and about. Still have questions about them with like their scoreboard pressure and everything. That's something they probably lack on ability to put on points. But I think that's a healthy loss for the Pies. I do believe. They're sitting pretty comfortably. I think now he's actually tied first with Port Adelaide, but I think it's like 3 games clear there are from third place. So yeah, they can afford a bit of a healthy loss now. But they just got out coached, I think, on Monday afternoon. But overall, pretty action-packed round of footy, I might say. And I think it's only the 6 games upcoming with round 14. But as I did say, I think we're starting to see some really good competitive footy as of late. So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting. And the crazy part about it is that you have that 3-game gap between Port Adelaide and third. You still have only a 2-game gap between Sydney and 13th and 8th. So there's still a lot to play for. There's still a lot of things to go. Love the comprehensive wrap going through each game, but we'll go through just a littlest bit more just because I love making sure that everybody gets their little bit of talk. We'll go through it. We'll pull the Band-Aid off. Sydney drops the game at the SCG again by 14, 80-66. And honestly, like, hear me out, Riles, and tell me what you think on this. Honestly, I really think this game flipped when Nick Blakey really got hurt early in the game. Before the Butler controversial tackle, which again, if we want to go through it, we can discuss that in just the tiniest bit. But I really think when he lost that ability to use his pace and the run through off halfback, which I think when when Ollie Florence started kind of doing it a little bit later, you started seeing Sydney start to kind of find their way. Again, is their disposal as crisp as it was last year? Absolutely not. There are
Mm,
some shocking clangers at times coming out of the back. But when they lost Blakey's run, that really changed the game
yeah.
because you started seeing Callum Wilkie get a ton of intercept marks. You started seeing Wanganeen Millera start making an impact. So honestly, this is the game where it's the coulda, shoulda, woulda's for Sydney. No Luke Parker, and then Blakey gets hurt, and Blakey gets hurt with his foot, and then later eventually has the Butler tackle. I think I hate breaking it down that simple, but I
Mm,
honestly believe those were the two things that changed this game for the Saints. Did the Saints win the game with their play in the fourth quarter? Absolutely. But the
yeah.
Swans probably are kicking themselves because of those two things. Because if you have Lukey Parker in the middle, Gus Sheldrick probably doesn't have to be on the field at all, which I think
Mm,
changes it a little bit out when it comes to the disposal out of the midfield. And then Blakey's ability to crack through zones with his run and kicking ability, I think changed that game completely. Again, all due respect to Saints, big win there, but the
yeah, it
Swans
definitely
are
was.
kicking themselves for sure.
Mm. Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I do agree with that. Like, he's a pretty key cog of our system. Like, people always make the comment saying, oh, he's overrated. Obviously, the new contract curse, perhaps, with that injury. Hopefully, that isn't the case. But yeah, he is a really key cog of our future. And yeah, I mean, obviously, his drive off halfback was pretty much what won us the game against the Blues, and probably at the expense of Carlton kicking inaccurately the other week ago. But yeah, it is more than that. I just think with Blakey going down, I think to beat the Saints, you've got to play fast. You've got to have fast ball movement. You've got to, get in there quickly because if you, I just felt for the first three quarters, we did well enough, sort of scrappy enough to win the
Mhm.
game. We're winning contests, we're winning clearance, won the inside 50 count. But our fourth terms are diabolical this year. And another was
Mhm.
another poor one. Started to lose those 50-50, started to lose those center clearances. And yeah, I mean, not trying to discredit the Saints, but I felt their inside 50 use and their disposal in the forward half wasn't too great. And I felt we did adequate enough to defend it. Like I felt Melican did his job. A few players did their job. Francis struggled a little bit. I felt on Max King, like Tom McCartan, a big
Mhm.
out. Rampy, probably his first game back. He'll grow on as the game went, as the season does go on. Hopefully he does, keep injury free. But yeah, for me, the main thing was just our ball movement. I felt, as I said, we did well enough to Sheldrick, I felt, did really well, and Rowbottom did really well extracting out of the contest, but we just struggled with cleaner disposal post stoppage. Like, I think post stoppage, when you get that exit hand pass out, we're one of the worst teams in the competition, I think, for it. And our hand passes and our transition has just been flat this year. And I think the small ground in the SCG, that's what wins the game, especially for us if your ball movement is top notch. But just a lot of hacks forward. You saw Chad Warner, I love him, but I just think he's a bit too erratic with his disposal. He probably needs to have a bit more composure. Probably will gain that as he does age on. But yeah, just a lot of hack kicks forward. And then you had Cal Wilkie or Dougal Hale with that spare man defense, slow ball movement, couldn't transition the ball. And there was the Saints pressure. I mean, we were minus
Mhm.
40 tackles. Now, obviously, that can be a bit of a false thing to tackle differential because sometimes that might mean you're second to the ball like the Saints were. But there, pressure. It reminded me of Port Adelaide when we played them back in round four. Just the pressure around the ball,
Mhm.
couldn't do anything to get a chain going or transition going. And for me, that's what really lost us the game. And of course, the fourth term as well. I mean, and also, I feel like we're a little bit of a downhill scare mentality. Like we kick a few in a row, we're up and about. Bud gets two and a quarter. I'm pretty sure it was. We're up
Mhm.
by 20, and then we just concede 4 or 5 in a row. Yes, the umpires, the 50-meter penalty sort of stitches up. Like that Gussie Sheldrick run was definitely a bit of a
Mhm.
ill-disciplined one, but he'll learn from that. But yeah, we're just struggling with obviously injury, but I just think method as well. Inconsistent in the contest, inconsistent in ball movement. Yeah, it just was another ugly display. And I think I think after we lost the grand final last year, I wanted to head into this year and just enjoy every game, enjoy our development because I felt we would struggle this year, but it is hard to with a few of these losses. But yeah, let's hope we try something on Friday night, try and knock off the lines, and I think we've got to try and own it with our ball movement. I think that's the key thing at the
Yeah, I,
moment.
Yeah, 100% agree. I like seeing Gussie Sheldrick and they're getting that shot. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
Parker's suspension, I think, let him get an opportunity to have that
Mm,
on to show his abilities. We've heard so much about him being a in the contest bull, getting the ball out, which I think he kind of showed a little bit. Again, he is still a little undersized. I think he's still got a little bit of time to grow. I think Chad Warner somewhat got tagged a little bit, which I think is kind of one of those reasons why he was hat kicking it because he just did not have the time that sometimes he
mm,
has had before. So, but again, our ball movement has been atrocious this year compared to it. There's little skill errors that just can't happen that are
mm.
happening that did not happen last year, and I think that's what's really got us a lot. And then the backline injuries. There's it's been a laundry list. I was a little concerned Armadi came back straight into the team. Like that was a
Mhm.
little concerning to me because I worry with multiple hamstring injuries and the length of the previous one. I'd almost love to see him get limited minutes in the VFL just to get that first initial go. So it's a
Mm.
little concerning. I hope everything's okay. I hope he pulled up okay, but that was my one worry coming out of that game. I'll switch over to the Saints. Wangini, Isaiah Wangini Miller. I mean, absolutely fantastic performance by him.
Yeah.
Absolutely great. King again gave Francis nightmares. It's one of those again, as you said, the McCartan matchup would have been so much better.
Mm.
Francis did everything he possibly could. He was just King had the situation where he absolutely wanted it. So we'll get
Yeah.
off Swans TV a little bit again.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Saints.
Yeah.
Hard earned victory, a fourth quarter that you absolutely need to win a game like that, especially big
Mm.
for their finals hopes. So absolutely massive there. So we'll jump down to it. The Friday night game sees the Western Bulldogs fall by 22 to Port Adelaide again at 10 in a row. Kenny Hinkley has to be chuffed at how well his team is going after that early season start. The unattainable comment is looking more and more ridiculous.
Yeah.
By the day, like I said, Kenny Hinkley has to be sitting back every night with a red wine in his hand, just going, "How good is life right now? 10 wins in a row, near the day, even with points with Collingwood." And Butters and Rosie looking like absolute superstars for this Port Adelaide
Mm.
team.
Yeah, no, they certainly are. And it's just hard edged of Port Adelaide's history, tough as nails approach blended with class. And I just think they're working so well as a whole team at the moment. They're, what's the saying, like team of champions, bloody champion, or you know what I mean? Just they
Mhm.
work so well. They remind me of Geelong a little bit, I think, to win the flag, be a true premiership contender. Your bottom six has to be, you have to have one of the best bottom sixes on your best 22 in the competition. That's always a big saying. And I think it is at the moment with Port Adelaide, and the win streaks has been brilliant. And week by week, I feel like they've improved with confidence. As I did say earlier in the episode, their ball movement has been really, really good. It's been high action, it's been fast paced, transition's been really good. And I think they've always been a pretty good defensive team. They defend really well as a back six. Tom Jonas isn't even in the team at the moment. He's been sometimes a little bit of a liability for them, but without their skipper, they still are playing some really good footy. Alia, always, I love to see Alia, but it kills me. Not him in a
Mhm.
Swans jersey. Didn't want to get rid of him, but he's sort of a little bit back to his 2021 best. Really, really good in the air, and you've got a few underrated players back there. I just think they've got such good foot users. Kane Farrell can kick massive bombs. Same with Dan Houston. I think he's a really good smoky for an all Australian spot. Really great kick of the footy. Dylan Williams comes into the team and, he's found at home at halfback. They've just, got some fantastic players back there. Miles Bergman as well, really, really underrated. Nick Kenzie, I think he's been doing all right as a lockdown defender. And from that back six there, just move the ball really well. Tough as nails in the midfield too. Rosie, Butters, you got a man of Ollie Wines who was a Brownlow medalist 2 years ago, and he's now playing on the wing a little bit, playing a bit more of a sort of role played kind of guy. Travis spoke a little bit on the wing too. And some really underrated players alongside you. Jed McEntee's been playing that pressure forward role really, really well. Burn Jones shifted forward. I think it was around round 5, sometimes kicking goals. And Sam Powell-Pepper's a player I love. He's slotting up a few goals as well. And Finn Layson, star recruit he's been. Dixon back in the team, kicks 4 goals. Toddy Marshall, of course, back from injury. Yeah, they're just working so well at the moment. They're just a well-balanced team. They move the ball really well. They defend well. They're just really good all over. And they're not like a top one, they're not like the best team in the comp in a certain area. They're just well balanced. And I just love watching them play. So far this year. And the other key thing for them is they're winning interstate. And also, a
Mhm.
few years ago when they're up and about, they were a bit of a flat track bully sort of side. I think 2021 they only beat. I genuinely think the Sydney Swans, the only top 8 team they did beat, but they are beating such good quality opponents at the moment. Yes, of course, it falls back on that loss against Collingwood, but they're a total different team now, and I think they do have the Pies in a few months' time. That's going to be a big match, but yeah, they're just ticking all the boxes at the moment, and yeah, I think a few Port fans that do hate Ken Inkley are saying Josh Carr's been doing the actual coaching in the box while Ken Inkley is sort of just motivating the bench. But yeah, I think you do have to give Ken Inkley the true respect of being 10 wins in a row. It has been fantastic.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I absolutely love this Port Adelaide team because there's unsung heroes throughout this team. There's guys.
Mm,
Willem Drew can come on and be
yeah.
that tagging defensive midfielder, and Junior Rioli has kind of found his old form a little bit on and off. As you kind of said, the fact that Tom Jonas is playing with the Magpies and the Sandful is truly mind-boggling because it just shows their depth on their
Mm,
defensive core. So this is a Port Adelaide team that honestly, if I'm most of the teams in the competition right now, I'm scared because they're playing really well. Now, I will also throw in a little bit of my personal opinion. I don't want to be playing this good this early though. This is the one thing that scares me because I think there's been teams like Melbourne Demons last year. Same thing. You don't want to play too early, too well, too early, because that means when you hit finals, you've already peaked. You've already hit your top thing. That's my only worry as a Port Adelaide fan. And I know there's Port Adelaide fans that probably haven't even thought about it. They're like, yes, 10-win season. Too early. I worry too early. I worry that they're hitting their best footy in the middle of the season instead of just going into finals, which is what you saw
mm,
Geelong and some of these teams start to do last year. So that's my only worry. Let's flip over to the doggies. Again, I'm going to say it. I know some of the doggies fans are perturbed that I say this. I don't understand Lob on this team. I don't understand him at all. They're talented, they're really skilled, but they're so damn inconsistent. It is annoying.
mm,
And I agree with you. After Liam Jones defensively, the doggies are a liability after the halfback line because they just can't defend the ground as well in previous seasons. They are so offensively motivated, especially their halfback line, that if you can catch them on a turnover, they are screwed.
mm. Yeah, 100%. I mean, Tim O'Brien, Ryan Gardner played awful last week, dropped. In comes, oh no, sorry, yeah, what's his face? What's his name? The other one, Josh Bruce. Yes,
Mhm.
finally thought about it. Yeah, he plays this week. Gives up pretty much the first 5 goals of the game. You know, it just says about their defensive depth in the moment. I did say at the start of the year, I felt they have probably one of the best young best young spawns the competition. You know, obviously got Sam Darcy there, Hugo Hagen and Norton and etc. And, the sentiment of Bontempelli. I do like, a few of the young key position players, even Buku Karmas too. But yeah, just their defense has been really, really awful as of late. Yeah, as I have just said as well, Liam Jones a bust. It really, really is. And yeah, it's just, I think last year they were one of the worst ranked teams in defensive transition, which is just an absolute sin. That's how I lost a lot of games. But yeah, you are right. It's the inconsistencies with how they go inside 50 and their scoring, but the plays they do have the upside on their list. I still do give them belief they can try and turn a corner throughout the second half of the year. But yeah, it is really, really concerning watching how they do defend. It's something I hate to see, but that's just a bit of a thought of mine heading into this year. Sometimes Luke Beveridge can make a few odd decisions, like, a few bench problems, Bontempelli going forward, McRae going forward, etc. That's something that I've always been a little bit skeptical about Luke Beveridge, and I think now a few Doggies fans are starting to get a bit impatient with him. Look, Rory Lobb, I feel like if they can get there, I sort of agree to disagree with what you said about Lobb. I feel like a few games this year has actually been quite impactful.
Mhm.
They just need to get the key position player mix right. I heard David King make the statement a few weeks ago. Got to agree with him. I mean, Aaron Norton, I think he was drafted as a defender. He's terrific in the air, but he just has such a limited influence, I feel, for not enough influence, I should say, throughout the course of the game because he's dangerous. I generally think this guy can be a superstar. He's so strong in the air, has his inconsistencies for goal. So why not throw him back where that's sometimes where the most he can probably see most of the ball, play behind defense and link him up with Liam Jones. I think it is genuinely worth the crack. His lob, he's serviceable in the ruck. I think he is actually a good kick for goal and he's not a bad contested mark. So you got lob there. Tim English, I felt had a quiet night, but he's been a big part of their system too. But yeah, the shining light obviously is Hugo Hagen. He's terrific in the air. He's a great set shot as well. But yeah, they're having their accuracy problems when going inside 50. I saw as well, Caleb Daniel is one of their best kicks in the team usually, but so far this year has been actually kicking quite subpar. So yeah, they're probably having few footish kicking skills. And yeah, they just have a bit of fade up problems, I do feel as well. You got the likes of Bontempelli and etc. who have good starts to the game, but they sort of do fade out. Liberatore tries his heart out. But yeah, it's sort of the selection issues as well that do worry me. Like James O'Donnell, great story, obviously, coming in and etc. But it was a bit of a liability. I don't know how he's been playing 5 games in a row. They probably do have a few issues there. They're one of the I did look at every team's injury list. They're one of the fewest injuries out of any team in the competition. So not really too much excuses there. As I did say earlier, Richards and Joe Harrison does hurt them a bit, but you got Bailey Dale. Vandermeer played a pretty sure new role defense. He usually is a forward, but he did play all right there. But yeah, really disappointing. I did tip them. I had faith they could get it clicking on Friday night, but they couldn't. Inconsistencies when going forward. But they can still put on a bit of a score given the talent they do have. But defensively, they're whack. I don't think they will be marking top 4 and probably a bit of a struggle now for finals just with that defensive transition that they're quite poor at as of late.
Yeah, well, definitely for sure. Definitely keep on it. For me, it's just the money that Lob is on, he's got to be more consistent. I think that's more of
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
again,
agree.
and I understand it's full forward, it's all delivery, it's all how much the footy that they see, but he is one of those where it's like he'll have games where he'll kick 5 and then he'll have 8 games where he kicks 0 or 1. And I think that's
Mm,
there's so much between best and worst that I don't I didn't see where he was that big an addition because he really just you threw another tall into an already tall forward line. So I think that was more of
mm,
my thing. Like I think he's serviceable on a team that maybe doesn't have that full forward, but
mm,
the Bulldogs already had 2 or 3 guys that could probably play full forward. So that was more of my thought process and on that. Again, any player on their day can have a great day. There's so much distance between his best and his worst
yeah.
that's that's the part that got me a little bit. So I want to go to this because the one that shocked most everybody sees the Brisbane Lions fall to the Hawthorn Hawks 98-73, and this is where I want to look at some of the pundits and some of the experts, and I will use air quotes for those not watching the YouTube video
Mm.
of I thought this Hawks team was tanking to get Harley Reid.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so. Don't think so at all. Yeah.
Just it just makes me chuckle a little bit.
Mm,
Was their early season play inconsistent because of the youth that this team had? Yes, absolutely, completely.
mm,
Because of the fact that Liam Shields was also hurt, and this is just a group that they're young. There's
yep.
there's some talent. It just needed some seasoning, and I think now that we're hitting halfway through the season and Mitchell has had plenty of time to work with them, you're starting to see the fruits of that labor. And it's interesting to see this again because this came out of nowhere. I think everybody tipped the Lions. Nobody gave the Hawks a chance unless you're a Hawks supporter. So this was almost a magnificent win because this came out of nowhere, and this does kind of throw the middle of the pack from third place into the finals into kind of helter skelter because now you have that 3 game gap and then a jumble of teams around, and the Lions' inconsistency at the MCG and away from the GABA continues. And unfortunately, you also lose Hugh McCluggage in an ugly incident with Sicily. I don't
Mm,
really want to talk about it because I don't think it's as cut and dry as some people want to make it when it comes to
yeah.
Sicily's potential suspension.
Mm. Yeah, no, Hawks are brilliant Saturday afternoon. Didn't really cross my mind on tipping them. I just felt Lions surely top 14. They've got to get it done. Very good forward half team, but Yeah, something with it, the MCG. I don't know if it's the bigger ground, maybe. That's something that I've always wondered with the Lions. But the Gabba, they're perfect. Away from home, I feel like interstate, they actually are okay. Been decent at Marvel. Not good at Adelaide Oval, but not good, especially at the MCG. I think it's one win from the last 10
Hmm?
years, and that one was honestly just an inspirational win against the D's in that semi-final last year. Very hard to replicate a win like that, to be honest. Brilliant second half that was. Jeez, that was a great game. But yeah, with this one, Hawks just wow, they've got some exciting talent. Heading into the year, as I did say earlier, I couldn't really tip them bottom two just because I feel like I don't agree they are tanking. I think they do have some genuine talent, and you have the young crop they do have, and I think they have an advantage though, over the next few years as they gain maybe a bit more experienced players on the list. Those young crop, when they grow into 23, 24, 25, they're going to spend, as much time as, any other young crop probably in the competition because I have so many of it. So many young players, I think, are still fielding one of the youngest teams in the round. But yeah, it's just their ball movement really caught my eye. Within the first few minutes of the game, I'm like, I think they can win this game of footy just because they're just up and down this year, given the age and inexperience they do have on the list. But yeah, just when they're up and about, exciting team to watch. I think, they're one of the highest forward hand passes teams in the competition, which will get found out by good defenses. It does happen like Port Adelaide last week, but yeah, some players that are really now starting to hit their breakout seasons. John Newcomb, I think, as I said earlier, his now ability to push forward and push out of the stoppage, make an impact there, bursting away from centre clearances. He's been awesome. Connor McDonald, probably for me, was one of the best players on ground. I think it was around 28 disposals and 2 goals. He's just playing that half forward role really well. In and out of the team, sort of, he's been a bit of the sub too. But yeah, they've just got some classy plays. Will Day, he's been copping a lot of attention this year with the tag and etc. And I think he, played a little bit of defense as well. I'm pretty sure I actually forgot if he was injured or not. I think, he copped a bit of a shoulder knock early on. But yeah, it all starts with, I think, with James Sicily from the back. Him back in the team, he's just the main distributor, the nucleus of that back line, controls the tempo. He gets a lot of marks because you see a few of the young defenders just chip it back to him and let him use the ball. But yeah, he's brilliant in the air. He takes the third tall forward, so he's not taking the best key forward, but with that role, similar to Tom Stewart, allows him to gain more leverage and allow him to dictate the play in their back half. And Mitch Lewis back from injury, he was really good. I'm pretty sure it was on Gardner. Kizicki was quite decent too. Seamus Mitchell is one I like to keep an eye on, probably because I might not have him in my fantasy team and Supercoach team, so I want to keep a good eye on him. But yeah, his run and carry is really good, and I'm pretty sure with him, he was one of those 2020 draft players who was injured, but he's into the team now. Dylan Moore has been a little bit up and down, I think, compared from last year, but can still make an impact. Tyler Brockman, as I said earlier, I think he had about 20 odd touches. He is a really, really good talent. He's one of those sort of verge players that Hawks fans are, really get around. But yeah, now actually seeing him in the ones, he was really good. But yeah, for me, the Hawks forward hand passes were great. Their ball transition was scarily good. One of the top teams in the competition for clearances as well. They were really good in the clearances. They were great all round, and it just was a classic upset win. Really great win from them.
Yeah, definitely fantastic. And I love seeing it and seeing Sammy Mitchell be able to show why he got the job and
Mm,
how the Clarko dismissal came through. We won't go through it, but again, he's got such a great young crop to work with. This is a Hawthorn team that could be scary in the next few seasons. I'm
mm,
not sure finals next year. I think they'll still go through some growing pains, but in a couple of seasons, keep an eye out for this Hawks team. Definitely, for sure.
yeah, 100%.
We'll move to the next game, and I kind of want to keep this short and sweet because as much as as daunting as this final score was, with the Crows winning by 122 points, 174-52, I really kind of want to keep this simple. Tex Walker, you legend, 250, 10.
Mm,
West Coast, woeful injury issues. That's really all I want to say because I mean it simply has come down to that. West Coast is a waffle team playing in the AFL just because of so many injuries. It just keeps piling up. I feel horrible for Semo because he's doing everything he possibly can,
mm,
and really he's dealing with a situation that is absolutely just there is no way to win games when you're facing some of the best teams in the entire world when it comes to footy and you're playing with guys that probably should not even be donning a Guernsey in the AFL again. This is no disrespect to the players that are donning they're
Mhm.
trying their hardest. It's just plain and simply, they are just outclassed, and that is plain and simply it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the thing with West Coast though is they are one of the richest, most successful, most passionate clubs in the AFL. And then when their cellar dwellers are not down there for very long, this is why I did actually predict them out of the bottom four, not looking good so far at this stage of the year. But yeah, injuries do hurt. They're just a team with not enough young talent. They'll gain that obviously through the rebuild, but yeah, with this game on Saturday, yeah, just struggled really. Ferocity of Adelaide style, especially at the Adelaide Oval. Ryan Marrick it was, he kicked the first goal, no, not the first goal of the game, but he kicked 2 goals on debut. Bit of a shining light, and they have a few of them. I think West Coast. Bailey Williams, I think in the ruck's been really, really good as of late. He's showing his ability to show accumulation and really strong in the ruck. Tim Kelly sort of putting up career best numbers too, and a bit of as an unsung hero too. But yeah, they just have a lot of issues at the moment. West Coast consistently smacked in inside 50s and just done with ball movement. Not really much else has to be said. They're just a team with not good enough talent. Injuries, of course, are hurting. But, Elliot Yeo back in the team, racking up a bit of the 40, 30 touches. Can he keep feet? So, yeah, just keeping these players out in the park and trying to get a few of these young players running through. Noah Long's been a bit of a shining light. I thought his game against Collingwood was really good last week. But, yeah, just trying to grow, trying to force feed a few of these games to the young crop would probably be the best thing to do. And, yeah, just I think they really need the off season to come quite quick for them, and yeah, just keep on. I just think they have really good leverage heading into this draft, and getting in some possibly splitting picks and getting some high picks heading to the draft, and then yeah, for the Crows, as I said earlier, they're just a dangerous side at Adelaide Oval. Ball movement is really good. Darren Burgess, I don't know if you know him. He's one of the highest, one of the world's best fitness coaches. He worked with the Demons, won them the flag. He's worked, with Man City and Liverpool in England. When he's at a club, he can really improve, their foundation of their fitness and their drive and the hunger and their, just the fitness in general. And it is now a second year in charge. His second year in charge of the Demons, they win the flag. His second year in charge at Adelaide, they're looking like a complete new team. They're a accountable team, one of the highest teams in the comp for pressure. They've just been, a little bit inconsistent, I think, with their midfield and their actual craft itself, but just their effort and hunger, I think, has been really consistent throughout the whole year. Laird was brilliant, Dawson too, Keys in the midfield, great too. And yeah, Taylor Walker, 10 goals. He's been an awesome Tex this year. I still feel like he's almost underrated. Given his old age, he's still athletic. He's still really good in the air. He's grown on both feet, of course. And yeah, very versatile key forward. But yeah, great win for Adelaide on the weekend.
Yeah, I think the evolution of Darcy Fogarty has helped Tax because
Yeah, quite a lot.
it's taken a lot of pressure off him.
Yeah.
Rankin coming in, you have the additions of Saligo and Rochelle have come in and really I think helped. They've given Tex that ability to kind of just be a leader. He doesn't have
Mm,
to be that key forward. He can kind of use his ability to he can craft and shark sometimes off ruck competitions, especially in the forward 50. He can get
mm,
crumbs off Darcy Fogarty and then be able to use his ability with footy in hand. And again, when you go for 10, it's absolutely magnificent. And to do it in his 250th game was absolutely magnificent. So a great game there again. Like I said, I kind of look at it and just go, I mean, Crows v West Coast. I mean, that was kind of one of the easiest tips you're
yeah.
possibly gonna have. But again, to see Tex have that absolutely magnificent game, 250 was absolutely magnificent. We jump out west, Optus Stadium, and another shocker as the Richmond Tigers, though inconsistent this season, find a way to knock off the Dockers by 15, 85-70. A fantastic win by the Tigers. Again, this is the coulda, shoulda, woulda Tigers team that they've underperformed a little bit this season. They've lost some games they probably shouldn't have, but to win this game that I don't think anybody expected with the red hot form that the Dockers had been coming off of, this was a little bit of a shocker out in the West.
Yeah, a few because of my weekly tipping videos. A few Freo fans did say I'm a little bit nervous about West Coast because it is going to be raining because Freo aren't a very good side in the wet. It just does seem, and yeah, really slow the blocks with this game for the Dockers. Didn't start the game really well. Really slow, and yeah, the Tigers. Frosty was right there from minute one. I think Jaden Shaw kicked like 2 goals and a quarter from
Mhm.
50 out. It was great to see, and yeah, I'm still am a little bit bullish on the Tigers heading to the second half of the year. Just their main issues have been their foot skills. I think they're one of the worst teams for disposal efficiency, which, obviously happens with their brand, but just their execution off the turnover and going inside 50 has been really poor. But I think as of late now, it's starting to, improve a little bit. So I think that can make a good charge. Really good though from the Tigers. Bit of a scrappy win. Obviously they'll take. Obviously the fourth quarter comeback as well. I think they did really well to hold on. Shea Bolden in that second half, I think was the turning point in that game. He is a genuine superstar. His ability to shake and bake, and such a hard player to tackle too. He's been moving in the midfield a little bit more. 33 touches. He's putting up really good numbers. He's one of the few players in the comp who are averaging over 20 disposals and a goal a game. Same with Dustin Martin too. So they do have impact plays in that team still. With that crash and batches, boot it long and win the ball ground level when it, the contest and try and score off it. Tim Taranto, 2 goals and 35. He's been fantastic in there. Fort of Loston was really, really good in the air too. And yeah, it was just a really solid win from the Tigers interstate. And yeah, as I said earlier, Andrew McWalter, as the new head coach, fresh start. I just think it's ability now for the Tigers to maybe with that fresh start ability, good synergy and good chemistry within the playing group and the club. A chance to now try and with low expectations, try and take this competition by the scruff of its neck. Win a few games in a row. They got the Saints this week, so they were a chance from the big deck of the MCG with that game. But yeah, really like the win from the Tigers, and yeah, with the Dockers, as stated, really slow the blocks. They came back strong. I did feel, and I felt maybe their selection issues probably did not really help them. Liam Henry coming back in. I heard he hasn't been really too great in the waffle. We have a guy called Neil Erasmus who has been brilliant. I don't know how he got dropped, but apparently he's been a clearance beast and really good in the midfield for Peel. I'm pretty sure it is with their second team. But obviously Jager O'Meara and Sean Darcy does hurt. Luke Jackson, good individual game, but yeah, with Sean Darcy out, it just shows how much they really do miss him because he is one of the top hit out ruckmen in the comp. His size is great. He's a really good contested mark, but yeah, a bit of an opportunity waste I felt for Freo. They were within 8 points, I think it was early in that full term. But yeah, as soon as that happened, I just felt they were really a bit panicked and a bit rushed with their disposal. And yeah, game they sort of gave up, I think, with the momentum that in the full term. But yeah, just a bit of a shame for the Dockers, but I think they will bounce back.
Yeah, definitely. It's a Dockers team that I agree. I think Sean Darcy's loss. Some people was like, well, they have Luke Jackson now. Luke Jackson, I still think he's still a few years away from being that takeover number one ruckman again, which is kind of the reason why signing Fremantle still kind of baffles me a
Mm,
little bit. I think West Coast would have been a more ideal place for him to be the man ruckman, if that makes any sense. A little bit like what Gone was, and still until Grundy came in, the Timmy Englishes, the ruckman that's a little bit slimmer. They're not as big, but they're definitely the more athletic ruckman. They can get around the ground, they can disposal, and they can be
mm,
damaging when they want to. Jackson's still not there yet. There's still a few inconsistencies there. There's still a little bit of youth still in his game, a little bit that he'll have to grow out
yeah.
of a little bit. But Darcy was kind of that perfect little let Jackson marinate a little bit and let him take the majority of the rocks just because, as you said, great tap ruckman, surprisingly athletic, surprisingly with
Mm,
a great tank for a guy his size. It's kind of scary sometimes to look at him. You are a big man, but yet he can get around the ground. He's not usually one of those that seems to tire out mid fourth quarter because of his size. So fantastic. Again,
mm,
Richmond, it's as you said, the wet was kind of it was the perfect storm for them. Fremantle coming off the bye, Richmond coming in, wet conditions, chaos footy, and they just a little bit too good, especially. So we'll have to see how it goes. Again, I is Fremantle out of the final Fremantle's finals hopes take a hit? Yes. Are they out?
mm,
No. Richmond, are they in the finals talk? Yes. We'll have to see.
cool.
This game against the Saints is massive this week, so
Mm,
we'll discuss that a little bit later. But again, a huge game coming up. Go down to Tasmania as North Melbourne fall just a little bit short to the GWS Giants by 28. Again, Kingsley kind of starting to get that orange tsunami back with GWS, as you said, in your pre-wins. Toby Green, match winner, absolutely insane. When he's on the field, he's always dangerous. Footy in hand, he's very, very dangerous. Giants just too good in this one. Throwing the magnets around, like seeing that. It's fantastic to see again. North, Georgie Wardlaw, fantastic again. Shows
Mm,
why he was a top tier kid. If I'm a North Melbourne supporter again, the losses hurt, but there's so much to be positive with Sheasel, with Wardlaw, still LDU, still to come back. A good little midfield spine for them to start with. It'll just have to be one of those. They're gonna have to grow it. Is Ratton gonna be the new guy? Is Clarko gonna sail off into the sunset after everything that's going? We'll still have to see. Again,
yeah.
North. I tipped them because I thought maybe this was the perfect storm down in Tassie. Good North team that tends to play Tassie well. GWS inconsistent at times. GWS found a way to kind of defy that a little bit, but again, this is an honor. I'm one of those. This is an honorable loss for North Melbourne. They played pretty well again.
Mm,
They're going to have some times where the ugliness of being a young team is going to rear its ugly head. It happened a little bit in this game. GWS experience with Cal Ward, Toby Green, and some of their more experienced players, Lockie Whitfield, kind of showed up a little bit, showed the youngsters a little bit of how
mm,
to go. Aaron Hall had a few clangers. I know my Twitter wall was going nuts with how many North fans had Hall with a few clangers that probably
yeah.
hurt them early in the game and kind of set them back a little bit. So
Yeah.
again, but North there's still there's some green shoots, just like Hawthorne. There's some green shoots here that there's a little bit of positivity, though another stinging loss.
Yeah, no, it certainly was. But yeah, that's just North this year. Always going to be a bit inconsistent with their brand and method throughout the course of the game. And I did tip them too. I thought they were due for that win, sort of. But maybe just wasn't to be sort of outclassed really from that Giants side from the second half onwards. Thought their ball movement was really good, and they've always been an underrated clearance team. And I felt they got the Giants down that first half quite nicely. It was pretty. I think it was a 5 point margin up around halftime, but yeah, Wardlaw was brilliant, probably the best player on ground at halftime. But yeah, he's just on his third or fourth game. He's sort of burnt out a little bit, and a few of those players too as well. Yeah, just the Giants' experience, as you said, Toby Green and JC Hogan down forward too, and Cal Ward. I thought he had a sensational game as well. Got the chocolates done for them within the end, and yeah, I do like the Giants with their future at the moment. Adam Kingsley, new coach, of course, Orange Tsunami, as he did state. Their drive off halfback, I thought, was quite good with the likes of Himmelberg and Lockie Ash. I think is having a really improved year this year without Isaac Cumming, without Sam Taylor, of course, Jack Buckley, really good one-on-one defender. He's been too. Lockie Whitfield, of course, the main guy there too as well. And yeah, it was a bit of a quiet game from Tom Green, I felt, which did hurt them a little bit. But Cogs, I felt really stepped up with that game. But yeah, that's just what's North's. That's just what's going to happen with North. I think this year they're going to probably bow out with a few games now, as you're right. Siebel and Hall were sometimes a bit erratic with disposal. I think Zeeble had 3 out of the falls last week against Essendon, which did really burst their bubble in that game. But yeah, I feel North at Marble, they're a completely different side. They do look like a team that's due for a win there, but just wasn't meant to be with this game against the Giants as outclassed. And yeah, it was a good win for the Giants. And yeah, I do. Yeah, just with them, right? I think they've just been so competitive this year, and they've been similar to North when they've been unlucky in a few close games. But yeah, they do that. I feel like they have a good balance with experience and young players. So I just think you've got to keep, got to let just time evolve, and I think they will be up there. Kieran Briggs, I think he's been sensational in the ruck as of late. Really physical player too. Yeah, just a pretty solid win for the Giants, which will help their confidence heading. I think it is against the Dockers at home, which will be a good test for them.
Definitely. Let's move on to a game that I found fascinating. That the all the talk before this was both clubs are going to bring out all their Premiership cups, and I went,
Yeah,
"What?
so yeah.
What are you
Oh,
doing? Seriously?"
yeah.
I mean, Essendon has a little bit more to say when it comes to it because they are
Mm.
playing a lot better footy. They're in the finals talk here, but Carlton, pull your heads in. Seriously, this was like a pissing competition. I don't really see what this did. So, and then we get to the game, and again, another piss poor performance. I mean, I hate being rude and saying that, but it very was another piss poor performance by a Carlton team that literally they infuriate me with
Mm.
you look at their list, you look at the talent that they have, you look at the skill that they have on every section of the ground, and to put up 52 points against the Bombers team that it sometimes defensively can be a liability at times, especially when you have two Coleman medalists, which again I find fascinating. Everybody brings up every time they talk about Carlton. We have two Coleman medalists. Well, congratulations. What did it get you? You didn't make finals in either season, so I really don't understand what the argument is. Essendon get the win by 14. I really don't want to talk about this game much. I just again, Carlton is woeful. I'm tired of talking about them. I just kind of feel like this is one of those big Melbourne club. Everybody's got to talk about them. Everything's got to be. I don't care. This is not a team worth discussing right now. Is Essendon the team that should really be discussed? They get a win over a team that they should beat. Are they still in finals contentions? Yes. Do they have their inconsistencies? Absolutely. New coach, new team, new game plan this year. There's gonna have some inconsistencies, but this is a Bombers team that's playing much, much better defensively and much better footy. And this is without Darcy Parish, one of their stronger ball users. So I mean, Zach Merritt stepped up, playing absolutely fantastic. He had a quiet game in this one. So I don't know. This is a frustrating game for me because it's the two teams that one should be talked about that nobody's talking that few want to talk about, and the team that I don't want to talk about that everybody can't stop talking about, this Carlton team. And seeing and I want to cover this just really quickly. The social media backlash is just really ridiculous nowadays. Do I understand the frustration of not making finals for so long? Absolutely. But some of the behavior is getting childish nowadays by some of these Carlton members. Again, to those that are sticking fat that are listening to this, thank you. I know it isn't easy. I know it's difficult, and I have many a blues mate. I appreciate sticking fat with this team because some of the behavior and handling of this blues team has been atrocious.
Yeah, it's something you hate to see. But that's just what's going to happen with human nature, really, with a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of fans from any club. We're going to see all that. I'm pretty sure I did see that video with, just disgrace to families of Silvani. Something you do hate to see, but yeah, I just think the Blues, they're mentally shot at the moment. They cannot find a way to win when they're in control within games, winning contests in clearance. They cannot do anything forward. Always the final kick inside 50, repeated entries. I think they won the inside 50 count by around 13, 14 odd. Pretty good, but Kerner Mackay is struggling. And maybe not necessarily are struggling. I think individually they still put serviceable enough of games, but it's just the Blues. Their bottom six is not good enough. The gap between their best and worst is really, really bad. And there's a few liabilities in that team. They don't have enough output from their small forwards and a few of their role players. We saw that moment obviously when the ball went inside 50. Kerno and always got in Kerno's way, and they just both confused. No one took the mark, and it just sums up them going inside 50. Really, yeah, defensively, I think as well, I have been a bit of a concern too. Lewis Young was sensational last year. This year, not so much. I think he is really struggling. Wiedering's just carrying all the workload at the moment. In new players are coming in. Chincotta and Boyd and Brody Kemp, they're getting in and out of the side. They're just having, yeah, a few personnel issues. I do feel as well. Last year is about injuries. We gave them the benefit of the doubt. This year, they're just simply not good enough. It's plain and simple. Paddy Cripps has been a little bit underwhelming. Sam Walsh accumulates good amount of numbers, but yeah, I just think with Walsh, he's a bit of an elite wingman. I love him as a player, but he just sometimes doesn't really do much impact forward to center. That's probably somewhere where it does hurt his game. And it's hard for him to play well in a losing side at the moment, might I say, as well. But Adam Chera, a bit of a shining light. I think he's putting together a nice little season. But yeah, they're just outrun by the Bombers. Their defensive intent and pressure is probably been one of the worst things I saw from that game. Just the onslaught that the Bombers did have with multiple goals in a row, and they were brilliant. A man by the name of Nick Martin's been sensational this year as a winger. Was in my underrated All Australian team I did on my channel a few weeks ago. His work ethic, his accumulation has been really good. And as I said earlier, just I think they're a lot more of an accountable team. They're a lot more of a higher mentally on the same page sort of team compared from last year. As you said, really good defensively. They can take more control of the game. A lot of uncontested marks. Ridley's been really good. Redmond back there has been sensational as well. Peter Wright comes in the side, kicks 5 goals. He's just a sensational footballer. He is. And Merritt did get tagged by Kerno, but sort of broke that tag as the game went on. Parrish, yes, a big out, but in comes the likes of, Ben Hobbs into a bit of the centre bounce work. Stringer gets a few centre bounces. They still show impact, and Sam Durham too. And it's been said quite a bit. A few of these like young players are now in like 25, 26 that have been playing VFL footy for quite a bit are now playing. They're just a high chemistry unit, I think. And that sort of brings me back to the Hawks. Like, I think a few of their young crop, when they, 5 and 6 years into the future, I think they can really be a strong chemistry side. But yeah, about the Bombers, their pressure's really good. They're mentally all on the same page. They defend well. And they're an exciting team going forward. I'm loving what the Bombers are doing. And as I did say earlier, I think they're a smoky chance for top 4 if they can start to run, get a really good run, because they play their best footy against the top teams, where they sort of play their worst footy against the bottom teams, which sort of reminds me of Collingwood from last year. So yeah, just loving the way the Bombers are going at it.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic to see. And then we'll go to it. King's birthday yesterday afternoon for you, yesterday, very early morning for me, but I couldn't not watch this. This was actually on main channel FS1 here in the US. Was it offensively brilliant? Absolutely not, because I think both teams really did set up very well defensively, which I think was very, very adamant early that neither team could really break through, and they would go inside 50 and just couldn't find that mark to go on. A 4-point win by the Melbourne Demons. Again, another fantastic win. And as you said in your bring up, Collingwood almost did it again.
Yeah,
Almost did it
almost.
again.
Couldn't
But
believe it.
a fantastic game of footy. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. It's like 1 in the morning. I'm like close to falling asleep, and they drag me back in as Melbourne starts to kind of get back into the game. They get into it. They take the lead. The Melbourne, the Blues, the Demon Army is up and about, and Collingwood just, they could not break this very good Melbourne defense. And again, as kind of the Lions kind of showed, if you can break up with attacking their handball chain through the center of the ground, they will make turnover. And when they turn the ball over, they are so pushing, they push so much going forward that they leave out numbers out the back, and you can burn them if you can hit your targets. And that's what Melbourne did enough. Did they do it as consistently as you would like? No, because you look at their tagline, too many behinds, 18 behinds in this one. This could have been a smashing. If the D's could have kicked straight, this could have been an absolute smashing. It would be a completely different conversation. But this is a little bit of the Pies pressure too, that I think is one of the reasons why Melbourne was a little bit off. Melbourne just did what they needed to do. They get the win, and now the Demons are back in the conversation. Are they a flag contender? I still think there's a little too much inconsistency with this team. They're still
Mm-hmm.
not at that full situation when it comes to going forward. Van Ruin can be taken out of games, as we kind of saw in this one. He didn't have as big an impact. He kind of became one of those, a little bit like what Mason Cox does for Collingwood. He's not always going to mark it, but he tries to make sure that he gets the ball down for contest to a Bailey Fritsch, to a Keziah Pickett, which I mean is a great situation for Melbourne. But wow, this was surprisingly for a 66-62 game. This was a scintillating match of footy. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time.
Yeah, certainly was. No love lost between these two sides. Highly respectable opponents. Yeah, I think if you want to make excuses, the Pies had a bit of flu going through the camp throughout the week, and a bit of a loss is not really the greatest brand, and then playing 100% is going to come. This is their second loss of the season. It does happen. It's very hard to go, only lose 1 or 2 losses throughout the season. They've just been bossing this year, and yeah, no love lost with them. But yeah, it felt they were a little bit off. They felt they were running carry, and the handball change in transition was a little bit mediocre. And apart from the first 15 minutes, this is all Melbourne, to be brutally
Mhm.
honest. They're winning contest. Sorry about the light, by the way, it keeps on flickering on and off. But they were just
It's
winning
no
contests. They're
problem.
yeah. About. But yeah, the D's were just pretty much winning contest in clearance pretty much throughout that first 15 minutes or so. They've always been a strong contested side. They were really winning the differentials well. And as you said, and pretty much the theme of the game, it was just a defensive battle. Felt like they were out coached. They were just outnumbering the Pies throughout every stages of that game. Really strong defensively. They're able to pressure Collingwood enough to turn the ball over. They were damaging with the turnover too. I think Collingwood are the highest scoring teams from clearances this year too, but I felt Demons were really good in the sending clearances and around the ball. But yeah, defensively just really won them this game. Really, really impressive. Jack Viney was superb, and without Clary playing Oliver, I felt they did well enough to win the game. Christian Salem, I felt he had a really important game because he seemed to be the main distributor for the D's back there. Every time it went back there, they were calm and composed. They distributed the ball really well, and Brayshaw had a bit of a poor start, but grew as the game went on. I just felt there wasn't, apart from Vine and a few players, there wasn't really any standout performances. They just all played their part. And down forward, I always have issues with Melbourne with their scoreboard pressure, but yeah, I think they did well enough. I mean, 8 goals, 18 probably. Set shots alone was poor, but yeah, going inside 50, they're a lot better. Van Rooyen always makes an impact, and he was a player I wanted at the Swans, and it did break my heart when he debuted against us, kicked 3 goals, but he's a cult figure at that club now, and he's shown really good promise. But yeah, pressure, turnover game, contest and clearance. They ticked all the boxes to win this game of footy. It's just the Pies' belief in their ball movement and what they can do with limited numbers and with their ball movement too. That can be in any game. That's just something we've got to accept as fans of footy. So yeah, I think no love lost between these two teams, and the D's defense was just too good. Lever and May had a field day. I thought they were really, really important to this win.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is potentially a grand final preview or maybe even a preliminary final. We will have to see. But that is all 8 games. Geelong and Gold Coast had to sit this weekend. And if I'm both of those teams, I'm going, wow, what a round of footy to be able to sit back and to watch. So we jump from the round reviews to my section I call burning questions. These are some of the things that have been mulling around in my head since the games have finished. I ask you this, Riles, as a fan of footy, and I know this is sometimes an interesting discussion. Is this year we have 4 bye rounds, and I'm interested what your thought on the process is because I've heard a few things, and I know I asked this question last week, but it's still kind of appropriate. Is Do you like the multiple round buys, or I've even heard some suggestions that maybe the entire AFL should just take a round off, have a buy round for everybody. Everybody gets the same thing. You don't have to worry about the ladder looking funky because it's only 6 teams. 6 teams have played 13 games. The rest have only played 12. The ladder is screwed up because of it. And now you have two rounds of 6 after this. So your thoughts on the 4 rounds of buys?
Well, it's obviously 4 rounds this year because the extra round and gather round, etc. I just think a big halt in the middle of the year. I just don't think financial wise and TV ratings wise, the AFL can afford to do. So I feel like the multiple round does have to come into play. But yeah, I feel this year it's a little bit awkward with 4. I feel like it carries over a wee bit too much. But yeah, honestly, I just love watching footy. I don't really come into thinking, oh, the buys, there's not enough and etc. needs to be changed. I mean, I am fine with it, but I think it probably should be kept to 3, just so it's a good enough balance. There's enough footy being played. So 6 teams for over the 3 rounds do get their buys, in my opinion. But yeah, with the extra round, maybe it is fair enough. It does get increased to 4. So and in the long run, when the new teams do come in, like Tasmania, the potential 20th team will need to obviously consider having, reshifting the buys around again. But yeah, with the extra round, it was always going to be a bit of a controversial topic with the buys and etc. But yeah, for me, 4 rounds it is. I don't mind too much. But yeah, in my opinion, probably 3's a little bit better.
Yeah, the 3 and 6 I think makes a little more sense, and this week threw me off because there was only 2 teams, so
Yeah,
it just
yeah.
these first two, 4 and 2, just kind of really threw me off. The next couple are more what I'm used to, is 6 teams off, so we have 3 games, so we have 6 games, so it makes a little more sense to me, just mathematically and just how it goes. But I thought it was interesting. So next question, and we kind of discussed this a tiny bit, is Melbourne back in the flag contention? We were starting to people were kind of waning on Melbourne because of their form a little bit, but this win over the Pies again. The Pies were the team everybody's talking about. They're probably going to make a grand final. They're the darlings of the competition. That the Collingwood Magpies, the team everybody kind of either hate or love, has become lovable. But this win by Melbourne, I think, does this stamp them back into flag contendership?
Well, I think mid-season games, there's always season-defining ones, and I think this can spark something for Melbourne. The past few weeks, as I have said, their efforts against the top teams have been questionable. Flat track bullies question mark, but yeah, I was really really impressed. Was a seriously impressive win on the weekend defensively. Was good against one of the hardest teams to defend of Collingwood, especially MCG as well, which is hard to beat Collingwood at that particular venue. But yeah, I still have questions. I still have a few thoughts on them heading into the second half of the year. Again, like going forward, they're inconsistent. They fail to put on scoreboard pressure. And I just think if Collingwood were up and about a little bit more, I felt they could have lost that game because 8 goals, 18 is just not going to win you a game of footy. They need to kick 12 plus goals, I think, against good quality opposition. But yeah, I think we'll start to see now. Are they able to bank off this and show are they able to beat some good quality teams and not go out in straight sets like last year? Really disappointing. But I think the important thing is they need to treat this season like a marathon, not a sprint. Maybe sort of that's the complete opposite of how it was last year with their first 10 rounds, and then they just faded out. But yeah, I just think they're naturally always going to be premiership contenders because they're one of the top teams. Victorian team, usually a good chance for the grand final. So yeah, I still think they're a good chance for top four. But yeah, I think their defense has always been elite, I think, throughout the whole course of the season. As they say in NFL, for you as an American, defense wins championships. So I think that's going to be
Hmm?
a key part for their system. But yeah, they're a strong contestant in clearance side. They've got Clayton Oliver back in. And the beauty with their list is they can still tinker around with a few key position players, like Harry Petty's being swung forward, Lever and May at the back. They just have a premiership winning defense, I do think. And, Van Rooyen has been brilliant too. I think they have the upside to get their forward line working. So yeah, I still like them, and I still think they are still flag contenders just naturally.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think they're going to tinker with the forward line until they get it right. I think
Yeah,
when they won their premiership in 21, they tinkered all the way up until the finals. So
yeah,
this is not something that's going to be settled now. You almost, if you're the coach for Melbourne, you don't mind struggling a little bit because he makes you work. It makes you work on things like this. You're not just gonna. I think that's the thing they ran into a little bit last year with those 10 games is they were winning all these games. They were winning impressively. Everybody was talking. I mean, Melbourne's gonna run through everybody, and it really hurt them as the season went on. So
mm,
having a few issues that you're not just papering over because you're winning games is, I think, fantastic for Melbourne. I think Goodwin has got to be smiling a little bit because he knows there's still room to grow. As you said, Clayton
yeah,
Oliver was out of this game, so it almost is an impressive win against a team that had been really good in clearance wise. So I
mm,
agree with you. I'm interested to see, does Ben Brown find his way back into this Melbourne side, or is Van
mm,
Ruin going to keep him in the twos the rest of the season? But I agree with you. Melbourne's there. They showed defensively they're there. My only worry if I'm Melbourne is if Lever or May go down. That would
yeah,
any injury there could throw their chances of winning a flag to the wind for sure. So we jump to it. We get to my favorite part of this. My favorite part of this, we get to hear from producer Ross, from Ross's question of the week. So I'm going to throw it to him. Ross, what have you got for us?
O'Connor, that's a beautifully weighted kick.
Now, I may just be ignorant, but I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that I'm pretty surprised with how the top eight is currently looking about halfway, a little bit more than halfway through the season. With teams like, the Crows and with the Bombers being up there, with teams like Collingwood and Port being the top two teams in the league, I don't think the majority of people were predicting that the league would look like this. So, with that being said, with everyone having made it to at least the halfway point of the season, who has been the saddest, who has been the most shocking, and who has played the most grand final worthy footy so far this year? Is it Mason Cox? I think yes. Anytime you have a question that's positive, you can always put in Mason Cox. You guys have a great rest of your show. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you for supporting Donnie, man. Donnie, you're the GOAT. Have a go show, you guys.
O'Connor, that's a beautifully weighted kick.
Thanks, Ross. A great question. So many different answers here. I'm interested to see what you think of it. I'll just repeat the question one last time just to be sure for the audience. Saddest team, saddest performing team. I think it's pretty obvious. Shocking team, and then team that you think is playing the most grand final worthy footy right now, Riles.
Well, Saracens shocking sort of, falls into the same category, in my opinion. I think you can put Carlton in both of that, but probably a bit more sad is just because the list they do have with those, really, really superstar plays in there, playing underwhelming footy, terrible brand. Most shocking, easily the West Coast Eagles. They're putting up historically worse numbers than, down there with Fitzroy when they were playing poor footy, and the Giants when they came into the league. 51.4% is disgusting. I think it's their third or fourth loss now with conceding over 100 points, and the 100 points margins just keep on ticking over. And I think it's like the last 50 games or so, they've only won a slim amount. It's a terrible, terrible thing to see. And the most impressive team that's probably going to be playing grand final footy or playing flag contention style is easily Collingwood. The belief, the synergy, it's just for me that just spells a flag, honestly. Obviously the MCG as well, with their fans, the army, and their style too, just chaotic ball. They trust each other. They're such a great team to watch. It's a pretty simple one of the pies for me.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on all of those. I was thinking as you asked that question, I was like, what am I in? Then you literally, as I was thinking it, I was like, yep, I agree with each one of those. I'm
Yeah.
100% with you. So, well, my last of the burning questions is that when we come when I get podcasters that have a specific team that they like, I like asking a question about that. So I know that this has not exactly been a Swan season to remember. So I asked this, and I hate asking this question, but I must. Was this loss by Sydney the death nail to finals potential for the Swans this year?
I think we're already out of finals contention prior to this game, but yes, 100% it is now. A loss that pretty much a win that should have been a loss against North Melbourne. I felt it was a good enough win against Carlton, but goal kicking was quite poor. Felt we matched them quite nice in the contest. It just isn't our year. Mentally shot, having problems, inconsistencies throughout our brand and our method, and injuries, of course, doesn't help as well. So, yeah, I think we'll continue to, maybe play good patches of footy and maybe get a few upset wins here or there. But you just look at the competitiveness of the teams. Bulldogs, Adelaide, Geelong, Fremantle, Gold Coast, I have really good belief in too. Even Richmond, as I did say, I just think they're a class above us at the moment. We just look mentally shot at the moment. Inconsistencies with our brand. Just not good enough. Ball movement has been terrible too. So yeah, we are done, unfortunately. But it does happen a bit. Top 5, top 6 pick in the draft. We do have some academy kids coming through of Cabor and I think the other one is
Cleary,
Caden Cleary. Yeah, Caden
Yep.
Cleary, both inside midfielders. I think there's a bloke called May in the academy who's over 200 centimeters, is a ruck defender. We've also got the father sons of Larry Barry's son and, of course, Indy Kirk. So, yeah, I feel like it's a chance to nail the offseason. But just in terms of the question, definitely is the nail in the coffin. We're done. But, hopefully we can see some good individual performances and just try and enjoy game by game as, finals is done.
Yeah, as much as I would love that 2017 run of like 10 in a row,
Oh, my favorite
as
year.
much as much as I would love to see it, I hate to I say I think this is one of those where the Swans just kind of have to take their medicine a little bit, try to get some wins, try to maybe be the spoiler a little bit, but I say kind of take this as an advantage of, as you said, a higher draft pick. You do have some academy kids that I mean will definitely be sought after. So the ability to have those points to be able to work with, I think this almost kind of works out perfectly for the Swans. And again, this is still a young team. I think it's one thing that I think we were a year too early last year getting to the grand final with such a young roster that I think this is kind of one of those. This is kind of the humbler a little bit to the
Yeah.
group, and I think might be best overall. So 100% with you on that one. Again, sad to say, but there's some shining lights out of this that I can take as a optimistic Swans fan. So We
Yeah,
jump to the little section where I kind of take over a little bit on this podcast, but I always get a kick out of this. So we'll go to what I call the team of the round. And Riles, when it comes to my metrics on how I kind of put this team together, is I do a little bit more of scoreboard impact on this to kind of put this team together. But
okay.
I try to be sure that I make sure that these players are in the positions that they normally play in the games. Unlike the All Australian, I don't just throw a midfielder into the forward, and I actually do give some loves to the wingers. So I want to see what you think of this round for the round 12 for round 12. Here is the team of the week at the fullback line. Unfortunately, gives us a little bit of nightmares. St. Kilda's Cal Wilkie will be in the back line. Hawthorne's James Sicily. I know sometimes he goes up to the halfback line, but I think he can still be that stable fullback. And then Collingwood's Brandon Maynard. Again, he's one of those, he's underrated but rated. He's a really interesting player. I think he had a magnificent game again. Both teams played very good defensively in that game for King's birthday. On the halfback line, Naziah Wanganeen Miller, you move up as a defender and you kick a goal. Absolutely there. Norse Jack Zeeble, 30 disposals, a good game for them at it. He's been kind of that stabler a little bit for the North defense. And Collingwood's Nick Dacos, again, he's absolutely everywhere. 27 disposals, a little bit down, but still kicked a goal for a halfbacker. That's usually a pretty good sign. We jump to the midfield. We go out to the wings. Butters started in the center, but I think he could go to the wing, so I'm going to slip him out to the wing there. And then Adelaide's Lockie Scholl kicks two goals in this game. Got to give him a little bit of love. We jump into the center square at the Rock. I'm going to give some love to a West Coast player, Bailey Williams. As you said earlier, he's been fantastic. 20 disposals and a goal in this game. I'm going to give a little bit of love, give a positive light to the West Coast Eagles. In the center, as our midfielders, the Western Bulldogs, Marcus Bontempelli, Richmond's Tim Taranto, and Mr. Underrated, Melbourne's Jack Viney will be in the square. Up in the forwards, I mean, it's pretty simple. You kick goals, you're going to get into the team of the week. Half forward line, we have Mitch Lewis from the Hawthorn Hawks, Brisbane's Eric Hipwood, and Adelaide's Tax Walker. At the full forward, we have Ports Adelaide's Charlie Dixon, North Nick Larkey, and Essendon returning Peter Wright. So that is the starters. And then on the bench, I do one defender, one ruckman, one midfielder, and one forward. So the defender, Melbourne's Trent Rivers. I think he's been a sensation for this Melbourne team. Everybody talks about Lever and May. I think Rivers has played magnificent footy for the Melbourne Demons. At the ruck, Tim English. I think he has a very, very good shot of being the All-Australian ruckman this year, as well as Timmy English has played. And at the midfielder, we have Fremantle's Andrew Brayshaw. Pretty good game for him again. Kicking a goal out of the midfield is always a good thing. And last but not least, the forward, Jai Amiss from the Fremantle Dockers. So that is my 22 team of the week for round 12. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, overall pretty good. Yeah, you really did go by your word saying a few underrated players, and then like Trent Rivers, I think he's always been an underrated player. Brandon Maynard and Zeeble, I think stats wise they were good for me. I thought Maynard honestly probably had one of his not so great games. I felt he was quite erratic with the ball coming out of defense. He gave up a few too many goals, and yeah, just Zeeble in general is a bit of a, you know, as I say, a bit of a seagull, just, you know, getting the cheap possessions and such as that. For me, the best on ground, I love Wayne Miller's game. Jack Sinclair for me was easily best on ground. He patrols the back line better than most halfback flankers. He is so clean. He's great at ground level. He shows his attack. He's been pushing into the midfield a bit more, and he's great by foot. So I felt maybe he was a chance to be in your team as well. But yeah, no, the midfield was definitely fair enough in the forward line too. So yeah, I think the team looked pretty solid, mate.
Awesome. We jump to my homage to the fourth and long part of the channel, and that is the power rankings. And this is going to cause some controversy when some people hear this, because as I've said many times, I go off form. I go off the previous 5 games, and you do take a knock for the losses. So this is going to be a power rankings that is going to throw a lot of people off. So here we go. At number 5, the Richmond Tigers with two wins in a row. At number 4, the Melbourne Demons. At number 3, the Gold Coast Suns, 2 wins in a row. one of the few teams that has multiple wins in a row. Number two, the Essendon Bombers, and number one, 10 in a row, the Port Adelaide Magpies. Again, it's a little thrown off because Collingwood with a loss here, with a loss recently, and everything like that. So it's just kind of
Mm.
thrown this my power rankings because I had Collingwood, I had Fremantle, and I had Brisbane all in last week's power rankings and all lost this week. So it kind of threw the power rankings all to hell. I know it'll eventually balance out again as the season goes on, but it's kind of like, whoa, this is going to be a very interesting power rankings going into this
Yeah,
round.
wow. Hmm. Yeah, no, that's definitely fair enough. That's a pretty interesting way of doing your power rankings. I like the way you do it. For me, though, I do power rankings after every 5 rounds of my channel. I just do it off many variables like the upside and teams lists and their actual premiership credentials and just all that whatnot and injuries they've had and the actual quality of their team and expectations too. Like for example, the start of the season, let's say a team that finished bottom 4 last year go 4-1. You wouldn't necessarily put them in the top 2, but you'd probably put them maybe around 8th or something, just because the expectations they do have. But yeah, for my top 5, I'll go over mine. First for me, actually no, I'll go 5th first. 5th, it's between for me St Kilda or Essendon. I think the past month or so, the Saints have dropped their ability to score a little bit. So I still love the way they're going defensively, really good. That win on the weekend was superb, but I'll go with the Dons just because I think they're matching against the top team of the comp. Their brand's really good. And then 4th is the same as the ladder. 4th, Brisbane. It's still in that range they have to be just because of the talent they do have, and they should be a top 4 team. Hopefully. 3rd, Melbourne, maybe could put them into 2nd or 1st just with that really, really important win over Collingwood, but I'll keep them there just because the top 2 for me are clear. 2nd, Port Adelaide, 10 in a row, where they can't go past the Pies, who are in 1st, who are still the best team in the competition, I do feel.
And like I said, the power rankings are always fun because you can do your own criteria. You can have a little bit of
Yeah.
fun with it. Absolutely
Yeah, I
love
like it.
it. Yeah. So we get to it. The most fun that I have with this, because you can either be incredibly correct or incredibly wrong when it comes to it. The tipping, only 6 games, but some
Mm.
absolute dandies coming up. We jump to it Thursday night footy, and boy, is this a mouthful as Port Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval host the Geelong Cats. Thoughts on this one, Riles, and who do you like?
Yeah, it's a tricky one to tip. I've been very inconsistent with tipping this year, so if there's any punters watching, do not take my advice. But for me, coming off the bye is questions asked with Geelong, but they're usually good against Port Adelaide during the home season. They're pretty good at Adelaide Oval, I do feel as well. They beat them here last year whilst Port Adelaide were up and about. But I think for the Cats, key inclusions, Dangerfield, probably their most important player. I generally do think he's so good in the stoppage. And when he's fully fit, he's raring to go. I think Matt Holmes and Duncan are returning. So some big inclusions. I really like Port Adelaide here. This is the hardest venue and team to knock off, I think, in footy at the moment. As we've said on the episode, not much else has to be said. They're playing some great footy. But I did my tips actually last night and brought out my weekly tipping video today. And I'll just obviously stick by that. I will go Geelong by around 10 points. I just think the key inclusions, they're usually quite decent against Port Adelaide. I think with those inclusions, the Cats are just a side you just can't write off. I think they still have the capabilities, and how they did play against the Doggies. They're still very good, defensively strong team, and they match Port Adelaide in terms of they get good output from their role players. They're a well-balanced team. It's a risky one. I think Port should win this, but just for the key inclusions, Dangerfield back in. I think Geelong win this one on Thursday night. Well, yeah, around 10 points.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Port on this one just because I'm one of those. I go off this is that Geelong is notoriously bad coming back from bye games. Port Adelaide's playing absolutely magnificent footy, and sometimes the first 10 minutes of a game coming off a bye could be very, very interesting. Is can Port
Mm.
jump Geelong? Can they get the fans into it? Can they kind of shock Geelong coming out of the gates? Can they jump them? Because if they can, I think Port Adelaide could really, really do a number on Geelong if they can't settle themselves. Again,
Yeah.
as you said, Danger is a great addition, but I still look at it and I go, there's more depth and more consistency on Port Adelaide's midfield And in a game like this, you may really, really need to dominate that portion of the ground because I think both teams are really good defensively. Both teams have dangerous forward lines. It's the midfields where I see there's a difference, even with Danger's addition. You've got so many weapons in the midfield with Butters, with Rosie, with Boak, with Wines. Drew can go through the midfield. I just think there's more weapons coming out of the midfield for Port than you do Geelong right now. There's still no Cam Guthrie. It sounds like I I'm just worried Danger's not going to be able to do it all himself. And Port Adelaide Ruckman wise is a little more consistent than Geelong's. So I'm going to go with Port in this one. I think it's incredibly close. I think it's razor thin. I think it's less than a goal. Come down to it late in the fourth quarter on that one. So we jump to it up to the GABA. The one time I don't want to go to the GABA as a Sydney Swan supporter.
Yeah.
I think Brisbane, yes, Hugh McCluggage, I think is a loss. I think that does change it. But this is a Brisbane team that when they're at the GABA, they play like the triple premiership team. They're incredibly difficult to beat. Swans, unfortunately, inconsistent. As much as I would love them to go up there and get a win, I just find this is going to be incredibly difficult. Harris Andrews may have a field day, intercept marking wise. So I have the Lions in this one.
Yeah, yeah, same with me. I'll keep it short and sweet. Sydney, not good enough at the moment. I still think maybe for a quarter two we shocked them, but we're just we're not there at the moment with our method. Really inconsistent. Brisbane, they're really good these bounce back games. The Gabba too, they play the ground extremely well. Dangerous forward half teams. I think we're going to be burned apart by a few players. Hate to say it, but yeah, I think the Lions get the number on us by around 30 points.
All right, to Giant Stadium and a teasingly good one here. GWS Giants versus Fremantle. Fremantle coming across to Giant Stadium in Sydney. Who do you like in this one?
Freya will get some good inclusions. I'm pretty sure Sean Darcy comes back. I think he does, but Jago Mira comes in. Maybe they bring in Erasmus, who I did really like. I felt their midfield was pretty tough and hard edged against Richmond. So I do like them. Who, yeah, the Giants are a pretty big bodied sort of side. Kieran Briggs and the Ruck's been really good. It's at Giant Stadium too, and the Giants at the home deck this year, they've been really hard to grind if you want to win. Carlton's game was close, Richmond's game was close, Saints' game was close. So for me, this will be a close game. Really 50-51 to be brutally honest, because, the Giants have been really competitive. They play well at home. But I will go Fremantle. I think they can get a big job done on the road here. Key inclusions, Darcy. Again, this might be totally wrong. I still think he does come back, and I need to do some extra probably research on that. But yeah, probably still with him out of the side, I think they still get it done. The Dockers, I think they can bounce back. They get their ball movement going. They're defensively a very good, strong side too, so I think they get it done. But they're close. We'll go for by around 8 points.
Yeah, when I did my tips, I'm going off of this. If Darcy is in, I may change this tip a little bit later. If Darcy is in, I will tip Fremantle because I think that evens out the Kieran Briggs advantage. I think Briggs's big body may give Jackson trouble, which would then give GWS a little bit more of first use, which I think could be interesting. Fremantle's defensively is quite good. I'm not as scary once you get by Jesse Hogan and Toby Green. There's some inconsistencies going forward. Riccardi can mark, but sometimes can disappear. Fremantle, if they can get first use, then with their forward line, Jaya Miss is very sneaky, can find ways loose. This is one of those. I hate it. I'm gonna tip the Giants right now. Like I said, I really want to know if Darcy's playing. If Darcy's playing, I may change this tip. I think the injury list comes out here in just the littlest bit. I'm gonna have to turn that over to check that out. I'm going to tip GWS right now on the road. Fremantle gets a little shaky. Giants really good at home. No Darcy, I think, gives Briggs that ability to kind of beat up on Jackson a little bit in the rucking contest, which I think then gives GWS a little bit more of the ball out of the midfield. Tom Green will not have another downer. I think it could be a long day for that Fremantle defense if that is true. So right now I'll tip GWS. But like I said, I may change this tip if Darcy does come back because I think that may change the game just the littlest bit. So we jump to the MCG and a cracking game because Richmond v St. Kilda. This will be a fantastic game. I'm going to tip the Saints in this one. I think defensively, they're going to be able to kind of handle the chaos ball a little bit. It'll be interesting to see how Higgins and Butler do against their old side when it comes to defensively. Does Richmond match up? They have Bolta and Grimes, which are relatively tall, and the two best forwards for the Saints are their smaller forwards. So I'm interested to see how that goes. King, can he have a day here? I'm going to tip the Saints in this one, but I think this is another incredibly close game of footy.
Yeah, 100% right. Yeah, I do like the Saints here. You are right, defensively pretty good, defensively sound, and still for me though, struggling to score. And you look, I could leave an egg on my face. They could come out and have a big score because Richmond, yeah, they can give up a bit of a score sometimes. The Tigers, but yeah, as I did say earlier, I think to beat the Saints, you just got to beat them with fast ball movement. I just think the Tigers with that ferocity. Ball moving, I think they can get this job done here on Saturday night. And yeah, I think it could be a close game. So I'll go to the Tigers. I'm just liking their form as of late. I think they're now starting to build a bit. So yeah, Richmond to get it done and probably around 2 goals. We got 12 points.
All right, we'll go MCG to a game that's got me very, very intrigued. Carlton v. the Gold Coast Suns. Who do you like in this one?
Well, fair enough that Carlton are the favourites because it's them at the MCG. The Suns aren't usually too hot at the G, and it's just Gold Coast second half of the year. You just have to see it until you believe it. They're just always historically so poor, but they've been in really good form. They're similar to last year. They're in the exact same spot. I just think they need a bit of luck heading the second half of the year if they do want to make finals, which, you always need a little bit. But yeah, this should be a bit of an interesting matchup just because of the venue. I think we're still waiting. Is Carlton going to get that bounce back win? But again, I just can't tip them in the moment. I just think they are mentally shot a little bit. And this is a chance for the Suns to be, still on paper, a good side of Carlton. While they're down, just to kick them while they're down. So I think the Suns are in form. They're playing great. Off the bye, question marks, but refreshed bodies in there. They're a very good, strong clearance team. I think their ball movement's really improved as of late, and they've had some tough games in Darwin. Down in Melbourne. I think they get this one done, but it will be a bit of a scrappy game. Gold Coast by around 15.
Yeah, I'm fully with you. It's in the tipping competition. It is very close. It's 56% for Carlton, 44% for Gold Coast. I look at it like this: Carlton, they cannot have any confidence after everything that's happened outside of the field of play. And again, if you're going to bomb it into two guys into 3 and 4 man defenses, you're not going to win too many games of footy. And I look at it like this: Jared Witz is the most underrated, great ruckman in the entire competition. And Rowell and Anderson and the midfield for Gold Coast, I think, can compete with Carlton. Yes, you've got Cripps and Walsh, but I just think there's much more effective disposal on Rowell and Anderson's side going forward. King might give them issues. We'll have to see. I like the Suns. I like the Suns in this one. They're a scrappy bunch. Who takes Lukosius when Lukosius goes forward? It'll be fascinating how Carlton handles him, because he's been absolutely in fuego the last couple of weeks
100%.
going into it. I think the bye round was absolutely horribly timed for Gold Coast because they were playing so well. You wanted them to keep going, so it'd be interesting, as you said, coming off the bye. Are they fresh after 2 games in Darwin? Have they fully let their bodies heal and get back to it? Because if so, the Suns are up and about. I think they're cherry ripe for this one. This is perfect timing to get Carlton. Suns by this one, but I still think this is close. Carlton has just enough talent. They'll stay in this one. So, and last but not least, Marvel Stadium on Sunday, North Melbourne v the Doggies. I'll tip the Doggies, but I have not a lot of confidence in either team at this point. I just think the Dogs, Bontempelli, Trelaw, McRae, Libba, that they will have their way with a young team, and I think that it's just going to be enough to get it done for them.
You always look at just the past year or so, North Melbourne. Okay, just easy tip for the opposition team. But North, specifically at Marvel, have been really good this year. They should have beaten us. They're regularly beaten Essendon, competitive against Collingwood. They beat obviously West Coast in there earlier this year. Yeah, you are right. I think the Bulldogs, just based off talent, and they should be fired up. They should be angry after the last 3 games they've dropped. They surely can't drop this game against North. I just think better team on paper, but I think North are a good chance to match them in the contest. And I think when you can do that, maybe a bit of a chance because North are always one of those teams that can cause a bit of chaos with a few goals in a row, but you just can't again trust them for the tip just because they can have second halves like against the Giants last week. So I think this one could be close up to halftime. But Bulldogs, just the classier team, finally get back in the winner's circle. They'll bounce back and pick up the win by around 20 odd points.
Yeah, and that is going to do it again. 6 games altogether. 6 teams have a seat this round. That is going to do it, Riles. An absolutely fantastic conversation. It has been great having you on
Yeah.
the podcast. I know we've went back and forth a little bit. I had the pleasure of helping you out with your season preview, doing the Swans preview, and I genuinely appreciate you letting me have that opportunity. I've
Nice.
never been as nervous as I can doing it by myself because I'm so used to having that person to bounce off. So it may not have been my greatest work, but it was a lot of fun. So
Nice.
to those that do not know about it, I know you have your, like I said, your YouTube channel, Ryle Smack. If you want to plug that a little bit, let people know how to hear your stuff because a fantastic footy mind you have.
Oh, yeah, cheers, mate. Yeah, Riles Macker on YouTube, footy content, tips, previews, just talking footy. A lot of live watch alongs I love doing. I base it off the Swans ones, of course, so that 2021. And yeah, I enjoy commentating games as well, calling games, and people do enjoy that. So yeah, just footy variety. I love my footy, and yeah, always just keen to grow my channel and even collaborate too with you, and especially like we did early in the year. So yeah, just Rolls Mac on YouTube, and yeah, always appreciate all the support I do get. So yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for our episode. Again, keep an eye out. More content coming out as it just came out yesterday. I had an absolutely sensational conversation with the Sample W captain of the Woodville West Torrens, Annie Falkenberg. Give that a listen. Absolutely magnificent young lady there that you really got to catch her story. Fantastic. More stuff coming again. Waffle, Sandful, and VFL stuff still coming out, and it's obvious AFL and soon to come AFLW as well. So that's going to do it for our episode today, and we'll be back again very, very soon.
Here's the song.